Hello everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I want to showcase how you can use HTML, CSS, JavaScript to develop a simple die spinner adventure application. What you're going to do, we are going to be using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to bring up this application. Over the past weeks, we have made videos, tutorials on HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Now, I want us to go into practice. On my screen here, I have the application running already. I will quickly demonstrate what this application can do, how you can use the application, and what the application is doing. If you look at here, the name of the application is Die Spinner Adventure. Okay, so what this application does is when you click this roll dice button, it's going to roll this and give you a random dice. Okay, this die stuff is called the die face. So if I roll this, okay, let me demonstrate. If I click roll dice, you see what's going to happen? It's going to give me 1. Now this is when you're playing Ludo. This is like when you are playing Ludo. This will give you 1. So when you click it, we'll have the result here. It's kind of like a list. We'll have a result here. So the first one we click was we got the response of 1. If you check down, if you look at down here, you see. So if I click it again, it's going to reel again and give us another response. Which another response we got here is 3. Look at it here. We have 3. This is just like when you are playing Ludo. Okay. So if I click this again, you see it's going to give me another response. This one is another. It has returned 1 again. If I click again, it's going to give me double. It's going to give me 6. So what happens is that this happens randomly, just like when you are playing Ludo. This happens randomly. When you click this, it gives you a random dice. All right. And again, if you don't want to click again, maybe you don't want to play again, you can say, okay, let's clear the history. You can clear the history and start afresh. Okay. So if I start again, it's going to give me, this is 5. I'll click again. This is 1. Click again. This is 4. 1. Okay. So you can just play around with it. And as well, after the tutorial, you can as well fine-tune the application and do more stuff with it. I will leave the code. I will leave the code below. All right. So what I'm going to do now is we are quickly going to start. And if you watch here also, we can as well do something to fine-tune this more and add like make it 2-player. But this is like a kind of 1-player game. All right. Maybe we can look up to that. But I just want us to grasp that knowledge of bringing HTML, CSS, and JavaScript together to produce something. Okay, so all this rolling and dice, this is what JavaScript can do for you. All right. So I want us to see a practical example of what JavaScript can do. So guys, let's get into business. Okay. Okay, now we are going to quickly start, and the first step is to create the folder for the project we want to create. So I'll quickly go to my desktop and create a simple folder. Okay, this is my desktop. I'm going to create a new project. We'll call it a dice spinner adventure. Don't mind me, I prefer to close. I always prefer to create my folder on the desktop when I'm working on a tutorial course, so that it will be easy for me to access. Just you can as well create your folder in any location you want. All right, so I just prefer to put it on the desktop to make it very easy and accessible. All right, so I'll quickly go to we have created a folder now, so let's go to our VS Code. So this is my VS Code, is up and running. I'll just quickly I try to zoom this out. So let me quickly open the folder we just created. Open folder. We'll go to our desktop. Go to our look at it. You have Die Spinner Adventure. We'll choose it. All right. So spin up. It's coming up. So this is our folder. Our folder is up here. You remember the next step is to create a HTML file. So we'll call this index. Let's call it dice. Let's call it dice.html. All right. So it's coming up now. dice.html. Yeah, it's up. Let's just close this welcome. So what I'm going to do now is to create a simple HTML code. Let's use our HTML boilerplate. Let's create the HTML boilerplate. How do you do that? You do shift, you press shift, hold, and press your one. When your one comes up, choose only this one. You can use your tab key to select this one here, or you can use your, like the way I have my cursor is already pointing at this one. Click it, you have your HTML boilerplate. All right, so let's change the title. Call it die spinner adventure. Let's call it die spinner adventure. So let's create a simple div, and this div, let's give it a class name of container. Is going to contain the container name is going to contain this application. So let's give it a simple h2 tag and call it dice spinner adventure. All right, so now let's quickly open our website and let's make it come to life. We are going to use open with live server. You already know how to use the live server. I've mentioned it in our past tutorial, and if you forget, you just quickly come to this extension tab, click it. If you click this extension, you search for live server. All right, our app is up already. It's up. So now our app is up and ready. I was explaining something. If you want to get the live server, just click live server here. When you come to the extension tab, you search for it. Look at it here, live server. Click this and download it. I already have it, so I don't need to download it again. I'll go back to my file again. So now we have this HTML file that is up and running. If you come here, it's running already. I think I saved something. That is why what's happening. What's the problem? Let me do see. Okay, what happened? Reload. Okay, look at it. It's up here. Die spinner adventure. So our app is up and running now. So what you're gonna do now is to start let's start creating the UI with our HTML CSS first. All right, so then after that we can now move into our JavaScript to start adding the functionalities. All right, so what I'm going to do, remember from our first demonstration, we have the tag name, we have the header, which is the die spinner, and then we have the spinner, that little spinner, and we have the button, and then we have the clear button, then the list. All right, so what I'm going to do now, look, I'll quickly come inside here. Remember, I said that this div is the container, is going to contain everything we're going to be working in this app. So the next thing is to write that that div. All right, the next thing is to add that dice face. So let me use a div for it. I will call it, let me give it a class of dice. This will be the dice, and also the ID of dice. All right, so now how do you get these dice? I know some people may be confused how to get those dice, but you can come to this look at this unicodelookup.com. This is a website where you can easily get all those dice. Look at the website here. This website gives you those dice. The dice is like, it's called a Unicode. We are using Unicode to get those faces. All right, and if you can also use a normal icon in the HTML, you can use a normal icon. You can search for any icon you want, any icon of your choice, and make use of it. But now I want to make it to be very simple for us, so we don't need to download or install any external package. So what I'm going to do now, these numbers, each of these numbers represents those dice. If you look here, this is the 1 2 3 4 5, it represents those dice. So I don't want you to be confused about how I got those dice. All right, it's just a simple icon. So I will just go here. It's a simple icon. We are actually using a Unicode for it. So if I paste this code here, just want to show you. If I paste this code here, this is that Unicode. It's called the Unicode. If I paste it here, you see that it's going to give us that what is happening? Our site is not reloading. What's happening? What's going on? It's not reloading. We are using I think we should stop and start again. If we should stop the live server, start it again. It's not reloading. I don't know. Let me stop live server. Let me close that. I want to make sure that this thing is loading on this one. So let's start it again. Open with live server. It's up again. So if I come here, you see now that we'll have that little, look at that dice. Look at it here. It's through that number, that Unicode, that we got that dice. Okay, so the next one is to give that button that when you click it, it will roll. Let's call it let's give it let's put a button and call it button. We'll call it what? Roll dice. All right, we'll call it roll dice. So we'll give it a class of let's give it a class of roll dice. Let's give it a class of roll dice. So if you look at it now, you see that we'll have that button. Look at that little button here. Don't worry about how it looks. We are going to use CSS to better the look. So let's put another button that will serve as the clear history. All right, so we are going to put another button. This button will be clear history. Okay, so I'm trying to take it step by step so that you don't miss out anything. So I'll give it a class of let's give it an ID so we can use it both in our CSS and JavaScript. Let's call it clear history. All right, so now this is clear history button. The next one is I think we missed something. We're supposed to add the UL. That's the list first. Okay, so let's add that UL. If you come here now, we'll have that clear, but we'll have the root die. So let me add that that list, and I'll say this is li. Let's just call it row 1. I'll just simply bring in this one. I want us to remember this list. We are going to use JavaScript to update it, but let's just put this now as a placeholder, okay, so that we can bring up the UI to look very good. All right, so if I come here, you can see now I think we have everything we need on our HTML. So now let's start styling it, and we can let's call this, let's not bother about giving it a class, because we're going to use JavaScript to style this. Okay, so now we have this here. So let's quickly go to our CSS and start styling. Let's use CSS to, okay, let's create a simple CSS file. I'll call it dies. Let's also call it dies dot. I want everything to be dies. Let's call it dies dot CSS. All right, so this is dies dot CSS. So I'll go to let's import it. Remember, when you create a standard CSS, you have to import it using the link tag in your head tag, in your HTML head tag. This is inside the head tag, so the relationship is style sheet. So the href means the link, that's the path location of the CSS file. This is dies.css, so let's call it dies.css now. So we'll have it. So let's quickly confirm if our CSS is working. Let's quickly confirm. Let's go to our CSS. First of all, let's do what you call the reset in CSS. You use the asterisk. I'll explain what this does. I'm trying to explain everything bit by bit, okay? Because the way I want my course is, I want to produce a course where everybody will understand it, so you don't have anything left. But in case there's something you don't understand, please make sure you leave a comment below. I will answer you, okay? So now, what I'm just doing now, this asterisk means it means reset in CSS. I'm trying to reset the default padding and margin that came with CSS, okay, with the browser, as in those default padding and margin that the browser adds to the HTML. That's what we are trying to reset. We want to make everything to be normal. We want to normalize it, okay, so that the browser doesn't add any extra padding or margin to our HTML tags. All right, so what I'm going to do, I will say the padding. I want the padding to be 0. I want the margin to be 0 as well. So I want to give it box sizing. I want to give it box sizing of border box. All right, so now I've just reset all the default. If you go now, you see that, look at it now. Let me comment this now, show you something. So if I comment this out, let me comment this out, you will see that there is a space there's a naturally there's a space that comes with this. All right, so this we are trying to do that reset to remove all those space and those space that the browser gives to our HTML tag by default. All right, so that's the essence of that reset. So let me uncomment it again. You see that everything, you see that those spaces will leave. You see it again, those spaces have gone off. All right, so after that now, what I want to do, so what it means that our CSS is working fine. So what I want to do now is to give the body color, the body, I want to give it a color. I want to give it a background color. And as well, you can as well use the container. You can use the container. This is the container that ties all the, you can use it to give it the background color as well, but I want to use the body. Okay, so let's use the body. Let's say the background color, I want it to be something like a light blue. We use blue. Then if we use blue, I can just override this and select a little. I have a color I want to use already. Let me just bring it in. Oh, my mouse is messing up. Can't highlight anymore. My mouse is messing up. So this is the color I want to use. Let's remove this semicolon. This is the color I want to use. That was the color we use in the other application. Look at it here. We have the background color now. Okay, so now I want to say the font family to be sans serif. All right, so we are using sans serif for the border. So now this is it. I think we are good with our body. So let's start styling the, okay, let's make everything to be at the center. I'll use text align, and again there are different ways to do this. You can use the display flex, justify content center, but I just want to make it to be very quick and fast. That's why I'm using the text align. All right, so if I come here and you see that everything now is at the center. So now do we need to give it a no? Okay, let's not bother about that. So let's concentrate now. I have everything at the center. The next step is to, there's a way I want you to learn how to code. Like when you're coding, take everything step by step, bit by bit. Each problem, split the problem into smaller portions so that you can get them at every point. Like make it smaller problem, then you solve it each by each. Don't bring everything all together. All right, this way it will help your coding career. So what I'm going to do now, let's concentrate on this and fine tune this. So what's the name? Let's go to that. Let's go to the, this is H2, and that's the only H2 we have here. So let's just quickly call it H2 so that it will, not much, we don't need to add it any class. So let's say let's give it a font size of let's give it a font size of, let's say 30 pixel. Remember the default is what, 16, 30. Is this enough? Now let's make it 40. I think 42 will be okay. Let's make it 40. I'm trying to use pixel. Okay, this is fine. Let's make it die spinner. Let's make, it's okay, like it looks good. Let's go. So let's quickly give it a simple background. All right, let's give it a simple background color. We'll call it white. FFF. Let's make it white. You see what it's pinning down. You know, it's taking the full width. You know why? Because it's a block element. So let's convert it into let's convert the display into inline block so that it will take only that text side. All right, so now it's taking only that text side. Let's give it a padding. Let's say a padding of top and bottom. Let's give it 2 pixels. I don't want it to go much. Then left and right, let's give it 4 pixels. All right, so that's not enough. Let's give it 8. That's not, it doesn't look good. So 8 is cool. Yeah, that's cool. So I think we should increase this as well to 4. Yeah, that's fine now. All right, so let's give it a border radius. Let's give it a border radius of 8 pixels as well. So this is 8 pixels. It looks good. Let's go. Let's give it a little margin top to make it to shift from that margin top. Let's give it 20 pixel. I want to shift it from that edge. Okay, we have just shifted it from that edge now. So this is cool. All right, so I think this is what we'll have in the other application. So this is cool. That is Spinner Adventure. The next thing is to let's make this dice to look great. Let's make the UI to look great. Remember what I told you, when you are doing anything in programming, take it bit by bit. All right, this is the secret, so that you don't overwhelm yourself with load. Just take it bit by bit. That way you go faster and you understand what you're doing, and when you want to debug your code, you will be sure that this is where the problem is coming from. So now let's go to our HTML again and target that. Let's target it. And what's the name? The name is dies. Well, let's use the CSS dies. Let's target it. Let's call it dies. All right. So what you're going to do is to increase the font first. Okay, it's fine now. All right, it's fine. So let's give it animation, because remember we are going to animate this. All right. Let's give it animation of let's first give it animation mode. Let's call it forward. All right. So we'll say margin. Let's give it a margin of let's say 20 pixel. Is that enough? Let's look at it again. I think the margin is a big. Let's give it 12. I think it's bigger. Let's give it, okay, 12 is okay. So now let's let's give it animation duration. Animation duration is going to be 1 second. It's going to run for 1 second. So now this is animation. We have not defined the animation. Let's quickly create another class. So that I don't forget. We'll call it row animation. Row dies animation. Let's call it row dies animation. Row dies animation. If you watch very well, you know that we have not created this class. Okay, but we are going to use it in our JavaScript. So let's give the animation, let's give it animation name. Let's give it animation name. We are going to call it row. All right, we're going to say row that. Then now let's create the keyframe. You know, keyframe is used to create animation. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'll just paste the keyframe here and I will explain it so that it will run very quickly. Now let me explain this. This tag is called this syntax is used to create animation in CSS. This is keyframe. Use the keyframe. This name is the name of the animation. Okay, what we are going to do in our JavaScript, we are going to use JavaScript to add this name, this class name, to this dies. When you click this button, this row dies, we are going to use JavaScript to add this class name to this, to that this tag, to this dies, so that it will make it to row. All right, so now what you say here, from 0%, that's from start, is going to rotate from the 0%. It's going to be at 0 degree, both x and y, that's horizontal and vertical, is going to be at 0 degree. So at the 100%, when you get to 100%, it's going to rotate 360 times 2, that's 720, like a 3D. We are trying to make a simple 3D. All right, so let's continue again so that we don't waste much time. We have done this, and I think this is fine with us. This is okay. Now let's design this button. We are going to call the button and just design them together. All right, so let's just call those buttons. They have, this first button is the row dies. The second one is the let's just call it button. Since this is a simple application, let's just call it button. And we are going to give it a padding of, let's look at it and know what you're going to do with it. Let's give it a padding of 12 pixels. Want to make it to be a little big. Is this small? Okay, let's increase the font size to let's increase it to 26 pixels. Okay, I think this is fine. So now let's give it a border radius of 8 pixels. So look at it, it's still there. We are going to make this first one to be green, and we are going to make this to be red. All right, so I think we should remove that border. Let's remove that border. It doesn't look good on it. Or should we leave it? Let's look at it again. This is let's remove that border. Let's call it border none. All right, that border will just go off. Okay, so I think we should add it a shadow. Let's add it a simple shadow. Let's add a shadow, box shadow, and we'll say the first one is the horizontal. Let's call it 0. Then the other one will be 2 pixel, 2 pixel, and we're going to use RGBA color, and this will be 0, 0, 0. Oh, oops. 0, 0. Let's give it the 0.5. Okay, if you look now, it has a simple but okay, let's add the blur. Let's add the blur soon. So it has just given it that simple box shadow effect. All right, so if you look at it, we have the simple box shadow effect. So let's add a background color to each of them. This is the green one, this is the red one. All right, so let's come here again and say I think we should style them. So this is row dice button, row dice, and this is clear history. So let's just do here row dice and clear history. It's a class, right? Let's give it a background color of green. Okay, background color of green. So we have that green dot. Okay, we'll have to change the text as well. No, let's not rewrite. Let's not write a redundant code since it's in the button. Let's give it the color. Let's come here and use this side. I'll give it the color of white. We are trying to reduce the amount of code, right? That's you look at, okay, put that as the color of white. So now let's go again, and this is an ID. Remember, you use the hashtag to select the ID. We'll call this now. What happened? I copied the whole of it. That's crazy, man. So let's call it clear history. I'll give it the background color of what? Red. I think we are going to fine-tune this red a little because it's going to be too much. We'll have to fine-tune it. Let's reduce it using the RGB. Let's reduce that red. Let's reduce it. Okay, it's reduced now. Even we need to reduce that green as well. Let's reduce it. Let's reduce it. Oh, that's too much. Let's pick something. All right, I think this is cool now. All right, I'm trying to make everything to be very practical. So now let's style this. We need to style this one. Okay, so after this now we'll go to the HTML. So let's style that list. Let's come here and call it. This is the list. All right, so let's style that list, and let's say something like UL list style. Let's give it none. All right, so let's give it now this each of the list, we need to give it a display of flex so that we will spread that row number and with the dies. So let's give this, let's go to our HTML, change this to 2. Remember, we are going to use JavaScript to change that stuff. Let's give it a class name and call it let's call it history. That is history. Okay, let's call it the same. Let's give it the same class. Now this one, we are going to give it a class of that is history list. All right, that is history list. Okay, so now if I come now, let me style this with this class name, that is history. can even call it direct shot. It's very good you name your classes, your attribute according to what they're doing. Now what you're going to do is we're going to have a span tag. We are going to have a span tag. If you come inside here, this is going to be a span tag. Okay, I think we need to make some amendment to this. So what you're going to do is let's add this Unicode into a span tag. All right, let's add it into a span tag. Right under span tag here. Then pick this. I'll just drag this inside a span tag. We'll do the same here. Highlight it and drag it inside a span tag. So now we have this together. Let's go back to our CSS again. Let's check here. The size of this is very little. I want to give this in a width. I want to increase the width, then give it a background color. All right, so if I come here now, I'm going to say I want to say a width. Let's give it a width of, let's say 700 pixel. Okay, then we're going to make it to be at the center. Text, we're going to make it to be at center. Let's use the margin to make it to be at the center. Let's say a margin of 10 pixel, then give it auto. The margin auto makes it, yeah, it's now at the center. Use the margin auto to make it to be at the center. So now what I want to do now is to style this list. The list is going to be a little bit of much of code, so I will just quickly call the li. Let me quickly style the list. So that I'll just paste this here and explain it. So this is the list. So what this is doing now, we are trying to give the font size of 1.5 rem, and I think we can change it to 1.4 to make it a little. Then this is padding of 0.5 rem, margin, background color of white. Then we'll give it a border radius. Then the same shadow we use the other side. Then we are making it a display. Let me show you. If you come here, we are making it display to make this both of stuff, to make this name and the other one to go at the extra, to be by the two ends, like at the start and the end. Okay, so now if you look at this now, so this is display flex, content, space between is what is making both of them to be in that same line, as in space them out. To align items center. So the span, which is that, look at this is the span here. I'm just adding a font size to it and make it margin right to be 1 rem. Okay, if you look at it now, you can see this. So now nothing is happening now. If you click any of this, this list whatever, just a dummy data, nothing is happening. So what you want to do now is when you click this row dies, okay, when you click this row dies, let's change this, let's add this button, let's give them a class of cursor pointer. Let's give them a property of cursor pointer. When you hover your cursor, I want it to be a pointer. Okay, so if you come here, okay, now it's working. Another thing is let's give it a hover effect as well. So let's say button let's change the background color. That will not happen very correctly. Background color, let's just make the padding, let's just shift the padding a little. That's what you're gonna do. Let's just shift it to, I think we need to make it to be the same. Okay, let's make it 12 again. Then we increase the horizontal, that is the left. This is for top and bottom. Let's make the other one 14 pixel. Okay, So if you come, if you look at it here, when you hover over it, look at that stuff is shifting. There's an effect. Okay, there's an effect over it. Let's go to, I think, that first button. We need to give it a margin button, and it's called what? Rodize button. Okay, let's give it a margin button of, let's say, 10 pixel, so that it will shift that stuff. Okay, so now everything is our UI HTML CSS is ready. All right, so what you're going to do now is to make this spinner now to work. When you click this, it spins this, and we are going to remove this and bring this from our JavaScript. Okay, so let's go into JavaScript. So now let's quickly go. What you're going to do now is to create a JavaScript file. I'm going to create a JavaScript file, and let's call it dice.js. All right, so first thing, once you have created your JavaScript file, make sure you come and import it so that you don't forget, because if you forget, you start debugging a problem that could have been solved. So we'll just call this a script. Then this is the way to use the source and call it the dice. Is how to import this JavaScript. We have just imported this JavaScript now. Okay, so let's go to our JS. So what you're going to do now is to bring in this row dice. This row dice is the boring row dice. Let's bring it in. That row dice, that is this stuff. When you click it, let's target it. Let's access it in our JavaScript. We'll do cons. Let's call it, what's the name? Row dice. Okay, let's see. Let's call it row dice btn, so that we don't mix the name with any other stuff. Btn. We say equals to document get element by id, get element by id. Then we'll call the id name, which is the row dice. Let's confirm and be sure this is the id. Let's close this CSS. Then the name is what? Let's confirm. It's using class. Okay, this is the btn. Let's change this stuff to. Let's also give it. Okay, don't worry. Let's use query selector. Let's use query selector. Document.getElement by query selector. So we are going to add a dot here to get that stuff. So let's confirm if we actually got it right. If we have access to that HTML tag. Let me add event listener to it. Add event listener. We'll call the event to be click. The event will be click. Let's pass in our arrow function. Let's pass in arrow function. Oh, what the heck is there? Let's pass in another function. I want us to console log it and be sure that this is working. And let's call it row dice. Let's add row dice string. All right. So now what you are trying to confirm if we actually have access to this row dice btn. That is the row dice. But let's open our console. So we'll come to our console here. Come to the console. This is the button. We have access to it. Okay. So it's working. So now let's also let me bring this down because we'll need this now. Let's also target this dice, the dice face. That's the dice element. Let's target it and target this clear button. Okay, that's the three things we need to get now. So let me just copy this then. Let me my keyboard. So the next one will be we have gotten the row dice. Let's get the we'll use the idea of let's get the dice face, that dice element. Let's call it dice element. All right, so we'll change the query selector. We'll do by hashtag is an id. So the next one is the clear history btn, and it has an ID of clear history. Let me use get element by ID. I just want to mix it so that you see all that stuff. So let's pass in the. So what I did here, this is I'm just using the DOM to access the HTML tags. Okay, so now we have these three buttons here. We have these three buttons. So what I'm going to do now is, let's also confirm if all of this, I'll just copy this and replace it with this and see if it's working. Let's copy that stuff. Okay, it's working. We'll copy this one. This is not ideal, but I'm just trying to make everything to be practical. So if I click this now, it's working. So let's change this to this stuff again. So now we have just created this. We have created this now. Next thing, what are we going to do now? What was the next thing to do now? That's the question. Remember what I told you, always divide your code into smaller portions so that you get them. So what I want to do now, when you click this row dice, I want it to roll these dice. I want it to generate that 3D character, that 3D behavior. Okay, so how do you do this now? Remember, in our CSS, we have created a 3D. Let's go back to that 3D again. We have created this 3D and we have a class of row. We have a class of row dice animation. We are going to add it to this dice. We are going to add it to this dice. We are going to make it to row. All right. So let me come here. Let me create that. It will happen inside here. Let's just leave that in. Okay. So what you are going to do now is we are going to say this dice element dot class list dot add. Let's add this class. Remove this stuff. Okay, so when you click this, it's going to add this class list to it. Then after, let's use a site timeout. Remember, this takes a callback. After like 1 second, I want it to remove that class. Remove, so that the stuff will stop to spin. It will stop. Okay, so now what this is doing on this on click, this row dice btn, when you click it, I want it to get that dice element and add this class of row dice animation to it. You get to that dice element. So after 1 second, I want it to remove that. So let's confirm if our animation is working, and let's be sure that this is correct. Let's be sure that this is correct. So let me just, you see, so our animation is working fine. When you click this, it adds that class name. So after 1 second, it will remove it and that animation will stop. So we are in progress. Okay, so we are in progress. If you like what you're doing here, guys, please make sure you subscribe. This is the way to motivate us to do more tutorials. Just make sure you hit the subscribe button, smash that like button, okay, share. Every week we are dropping new courses. So this is working now. This is okay. The rotation is working. But what you are going to do now is when you rotate this die, I want you to get a new response. Okay, so let's go back to our code again. Our animation is working fine when you click it. What's the next thing to do? That's the question. We are going to create a function called roll the dice. We are going to roll the dice now. Let's roll the dice so that we get a new response. Roll dice. Let's create a function. Now, how do you do that stuff? First of all, I want us to do something. Let's get the dice face. Let's get the dice face. This stuff now. Let's get the dice face. Get dice face. I will explain what this means. Get dice face. All right. So what we are going to do in get dice face now, we are going to use what we call switch. Okay, the switch now, let me write this. That's the best way to explain this stuff. what this switch is going to do now, when this let's wait, results, dice results, row results, let's call it row results, and we're going to use it as our expression here. I will explain this, okay? I don't want you to get confused about this. So let's call this one, and this will be break, this will continue, this will be default. We'll have return and empty stuff, okay? So what I'm going to do now, let me write more cases. We are going to have 6 cases. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, okay? The 7th one won't do anything. So if the condition, which is that expression, if it matches any of this case, it's going to return a new face for us. That's the magic there. This is where the magic happens. Guys, pay attention. This is where the magic happens, okay? So now, what this let me bring in, let's return those stuff. Return. Let me just copy this. Copy this. Okay. What this break does is that when this row result, if it matches any of this is going to be a number. Assuming you are using JavaScript, you can put the type here, but now we are not using JavaScript. Okay. Sorry, assuming you are using TypeScript, you can add the type, but now, so this row result is going to be a number. So if it matches any of this, if it's 1, it will return this. This function will return this. If it's not, it will, and if it returns, it will break. The function will stop. So if it's this 2, it will return what you are going to put inside here. So now what you are going to do, let's copy those faces Unicode. We are going to copy the faces Unicode, okay? So let's come here. Remember, I have this Unicode. This one is face 1. Let's copy it. We'll call this, that if it's 1, it's going to return this stuff for us. Let's go again and copy this 2. If it's 2, my mouse is disappointing me. Copy this. Okay, so now let's put this here. This is for 2. This is phase 2. Let me quickly copy this, okay, so that I don't waste much of our time. Okay, guys, if you watch here, you see that I'm done copying those numbers, okay? Those Unicode face for the dices, all right? So I've removed that break stuff so that it doesn't make our code to look too big. This is just a simple application. So now this dice face, what it's going to do now, when you call this dice face, it's going to pass in an argument into it. These are the parameters. It's going from the where you are calling it, you pass the arguments. When it receives this, it's going to be a parameter. This is just like placeholder. So when this row result is a number, this is a number, is represent number. When it matches any of this case, it's return these numbers from this function to us. Okay, so now what I'm going to do now is we are going to create a function that will return each of these as a result. So let's create, remember what you are passing into this get dice is a number. So let's get that number now. Let's create const dice, let's call it new results face, we'll call it, let's use the math.random and math.flow. Let's use the math.flow to flow a number that we are going to get from the math.random. Let's this is math.flow. Okay, it takes in the math.random. Okay, multiply by 6 plus 1. Okay, so now what we have just done here now is we are getting this. Okay, let me console log this and be sure we are getting the correct number. We'll call it new result face. Okay, so this row dice, let's call it inside that on click of that button. let's call it here row dice face, row dice. Let's call that function. I'm going to explain all of this so that nothing will confuse you. So this dice row dice face, when you click this button, it's going to call, after the animation, it's going to call this function. Okay, so this function is now generating a number for us. Let's click it and see the number we are getting from this math.float and math. Now what math.random does is it's going to generate a random number from, now we have assigned 6. We say generate number from 1 to 6. All right, in this case 6 will not be included, but we have to use this +1 here to make it up to 6 and floor it. Okay, so now let's console log this new result and see what you are getting. So you see that we got 5, we got 4, we got 2, we got 4 again. So these numbers now, if this number matches any of these, okay, it's going to return this new face. This new face, we are going to take it and now attach it to that this dice element. We'll turn it to this dice element. So what we are going to do now, let's call that let's call this get dice face, then assign it to a variable. You know, it returns this, it returns each of these when it matches with the case matches with the result. Let's call it const, let's use let's call it current dice face. Okay, so now we'll call this function get dice face. Okay, we pass in that new result face. Okay, we pass in this new result face. So I want us to, let me drag this thing down to this place now. I want to console log this current dice face. I want to console. So let's see the dice face we are getting now. All right, let's see the dice face we are getting now. Let me console log it. So get the dice face we are getting. So if I what this thing does now is passing this number, random number, into this. So if the case matches any of this number, it will return these new faces to us. Okay, so and that face we are trying to console log will get each of these. So let's go back again. If we will now click this, it returns this 559. Okay, if you click it again, it returns 61. These are new faces. Remember, these faces are the Unicode we are using for this dice, and this one are 58. Okay, so we are getting it. So what you are getting now, we are getting this current dice face. And what you want to do now is to write a function that will update this dice element, pass it. Okay, let me just do something and show you. Let's say dice element dot inner HTML equals to current dice face. Let's see what's going to happen now. So now what I have to do now, I have to look at it now, is updating it. You see what's happening. If I click, let me close this console again. If I click this now, if I click this, it gives us 2. Click it again, it gives us, it's changing. You see now we are getting a result. We are getting a result, guys. We are getting a result. This gives us 4 again. This one gives us 2. Roll dice again, it gives us 3. Roll the dice again, we have 3 again. Roll the dice again, we have 4. Roll the dice again, let's try, we have 4. Let's keep rolling until we get another number. This is 5. We want to guess it. This is 3. This is 6. We have 6, guys. I wanted us to get 6. So now it's like it's working now. If you roll it, it's going to give you a new dice. Okay, so guys, if you like what you are doing, please hit the subscribe button. Okay, so that YouTube can it will help the YouTube algorithm to share our courses, and as well it will help you to get updates whenever we release a new course every week. Okay, guys, I'm asking you guys, just subscribe. This will help the channel to grow. Okay, thank you guys. Thank you for subscribing. Let's continue. Let's quickly continue now. So now we are getting the new we are getting this. Now we need to update this list. If you click here again, you see we get another one. This is 6. Okay, the first one we got wasn't really 6. I think that was 5. Okay, this is 5. Okay, that was 5. Okay, but we have gotten 6 as well. So guys, that's it. Okay, so you click again. We'll keep getting random. This is 4. That it will just give us random numbers. So now what you're going to do again now is we have to update this. We have to update this list. We have to get the list and update it. Let me quickly write a function. So guys, we need to update the list. Let's go back to our HTML. I want us to let's comment this out. We need to bring this that list from our JavaScript. So let's comment this out. We are not going to see it anymore. It's no longer there. So let's use our JavaScript to add those lists. Okay, so let's quickly let's just create a simple. What I'm going to do now is let's create a variable called history list. Assign it to an empty variable. Then let's get this stuff. Let's get this, the parent of those lists. Let's get it. Let's use a query selector. I'll just duplicate this and change the name. This is supposed to be the dot. Is a class name, right? I'm sure that's a class name. Check very well. That's a class name. Let's check again. It's a class name, so I have to use the dot sign. Let's call it the row history element. Okay, so what is going to happen now is this function here, what is doing on initial, from the start we are going to say this will be an empty string. We are just assigning an empty string to it, so nothing displays on that list. That's when you load the application first. So now we are going to use the loop. We are going to use the loop and loop through the element. Remember, this is an array. It has this property of an element. We're going to check the element. If this I is a 0, if it's I, this is condition. This is the initialization, and this one is the increment. So when this I, which is 0, is less than this, once it's less than this, we are going to increment it by 1. All right, so when we increment it by 1, we are going to create a list item, which is that li tag. We're going to use this document.create element to create the li tag. And when we create this li tag, let me shift this so that we have enough space. When we create that li tag, we are going to append an inner HTML. This is a DOM property to this li tag. We are going to add the inner HTML, just like the text. We are going to add something like, we'll say row. Then we'll now use this I is the index of this array that we are looping through. We'll now add 1 to it. Then we'll create a span, just like what we do it in our this is just the same thing we are doing here. We are just doing the same thing with JavaScript, but what you are trying to update is this those dice face. That's what you are trying to update, and the name here also. Okay, so if you come here now, if we say we are creating a tag, this span tag, and we'll still call this dice face, this get dice face. We are still calling it here to get that response. We call it here and get that response. Then we'll pass in this history. This history. Remember what we have inside here. What we have inside here will be. Let's push those numbers inside this. Let's come here and say. Let's come here and say. History. Let's push those numbers inside it. Dot push. Let's say history dot push. We're pushing this new result is a number. We are pushing that number inside that array. So we are using that number. We'll use this number. If we console log this history now, you're going to see that what we are pushing inside it is this number that we're getting from you. We're pushing it inside this history list. So when we push it inside this history list, we are saying we are now trying to get each of those numbers in that array. We are using this index. Remember, this I is an index. We are passing it. We are using it to access each of those numbers in this array, this history list. That's an array. We will get each of that number. We'll call this function that get dice face. We'll pass in that number that we are getting, then this get dice face returns us a new dice face, which we will now put inside this span tag that will now display in the list. So I think we'll have to, let's call this function here. When we push in this inside, we'll call that function, let's call it, okay, let's call this function. I want to show you, I want to really explain this so that it doesn't confuse you. Okay, so see what is going to happen now. I think we have a lot to do here. You see? So let me reload this again. Now we have this one. We have this one that is a way. Click this roll dice. You see, guys, it's going to roll and give us a new dice face, which is this one that is 4. And now we are putting it in that inside that list that we created through our JavaScript. See, now we have a new list here. We are just creating a history. All the dice we are trying to put, you see, we are getting all of them. We are putting them in that list. Okay, so now there's one thing I want to do. I want to really explain that update, because that, I think that place looks somehow confusing. I think it may look to some people, especially beginners, because it's pure JavaScript. So let me remove all of this. See what I want to do here now. In this history list, I'm pushing this number. Remember, when I console log this, the number I'm getting is from this math.random. I'm pushing it inside this. You use dot push to add numbers from the end of an array. So we are using this push to push those numbers into this array. If I console log this here now, let me console log that. You see that is an array. Let's call it history list. If I console log it, I think there's a place to have. I want to remove them. Okay, when the console again, I want to remove any other place to have console. Let's remove this as well, so that we'll be sure of what you are seeing. So now I want to console log this history list. So as you see that when you click it, we are pushing new numbers into it. So if I click this now, is an array. Look at it, it's 2, and I click again, I'm pushing in those numbers. It's returning new arrays. Okay, it's returning new arrays. Look at it. Okay, so now the way to access this array, you use the index. If I say index of 0, it will return 2 to me. If I say index of 1, it will return 4. If I say index of 3, it's going to return 2. Remember, that's the way to access an arrays. Okay, one way to access an array. So now if I come here now, look at here, now it's giving us this new array. Look at this new array now. Look at it. So if I come here again now, I'm trying to get each of this array. Remember, each of those array has numbers inside it. When I get each of this now, and then again, let's comment this. I want to also console log this I, so that you see what I is giving us. Let me console log that I. You see what I is giving us. I is giving us the index of this. Okay, so now if I call this again now, you see that. I want to show you what I is giving. Remember, this history list is an array. We are passing in each numbers that we are getting from this. We are passing in each number we are getting from this I, which is the index. This index, we are passing in that number into this array to get each of those arrays. So now let me click this again. You see what's going to happen. I is 0 here. So when I is 0, we are passing 0 into this. Okay, where I is 0, we are passing into this. Okay, and it will not give us any number. It will return this empty. That is, it will return that normal number. It will return the normal. That is the I. That is the initial one we have here. So if I console log again, let me click this again. I now is 1. Look at it. I is going to give us this one. This one now is going to return this. You see it. So this is what is just happening here. Let me close this down again. You see, our application is working fine. Everything is correct now. Our application is just fine. Our application is just fine. It's still returning 1. It will keep returning random stuff. So there's one thing that is left. When you click this clear button, it's going to clear this list. That's what I want. I want it to happen when you click this. You've seen that if I click this, nothing happens. So I want, when you click this now, I want you to clear this of this list. So what I'm going to do now, just come to this Let's access that. I think we have done already. Okay, look at it. We have accessed it already. I'll just call it and add event listener to it and say add click. When you click, see what happens. I'll add an arrow function to it. I'm going to say that history list we created, I'm going to pass it into an empty array. I'm going to say turn into an empty array. Then I'll call that update history list again. I'll call it here again so that it will update that stuff now. So let's start again. You see, we have that list now. So if I click this clear, it clears it. If I click this clear again, it clears it. So, and that's why we can also make this clear to disappear when there is nothing. Okay, that's another way to fine-tune the application. This is just a little application to demonstrate what JavaScript does. Okay, so guys, this is the end of our tutorial for today. If you like what you are doing, please hit the subscribe button. This way it will help the channel to grow and it will motivate me to produce more tutorials every week and even produce more. Okay, so if I get more subscription, I'm going to be producing two more tutorials every week. Okay, so subscribe, guys. Hit the like button. When you subscribe, YouTube will always send you an update when we release a new course every week. Okay, so you don't miss out anything. I will continue to produce more courses to help beginners to learn more about coding and JavaScript, everything about coding, mostly in the main stack. Okay, thank you guys for watching.